What's up, everybody? Welcome to Watchable's Real Spiel. I'm your host, Paul. Now, unless you live under a rock or from a different planet, then you know that Avengers Endgame is just around the corner, and I, like pretty much the rest of the world, am as excited as all get out. And why wouldn't I be? Over the last decade, I've spent I don't know how many hours and several $100s watching Tony Stark and company fight bad guys, robots, aliens, each other. It's all led up to this, the final chapter in what's referred to as the Infinity Saga, or Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that began with 2008's Iron Man. And yeah, I can't wait to finally take a break. I realize that's probably not a popular opinion, but I'm far from alone. Over the past several years, there have been plenty of articles and editorials and videos just like this one where people are pretty much saying the same thing, that we're kind of superheroed out. To all you hardcore comic book and superhero fans out there, that might sound like blasphemy, just a bunch of haters looking for something to complain about, but believe me, that's not the case. I consider myself one of you. I love superheroes and superhero movies, and have since I was a kid and saw the first great superhero film, Superman the movie. As an 8-year-old back in 1982, I saw the television broadcast of Superman on ABC. It was like tasting chocolate for the first time. Finally, Hollywood had taken superhero movies seriously, and there was no reason not to think that perception had changed and that we'd be seeing a steady stream of our favorite characters flying into theaters. But then, just a few short years later, Superman 4: A Quest for Peace came out and had such kryptonite levels of suck, it killed the franchise once and for all. But luckily, we didn't have to mourn Superman for long, because in 1989, Tim Burton's Batman hit the silver screen. It was stylish, it was dark, the closest thing to the look and tone of the comic books that we'd seen yet. 15-year-old me ate it up. Again, I was all in. Then Batman and Robin skated in with its bat nipples, stupid puns,
all right, everyone, chill,
cringy attempts at comedy,
never leave the cave without it,
and proceeded to put the kibosh on that franchise. In 2000, we got a very respectable X-Men film. Then in 2006, got the overflowing bedpan that was X-Men: The Last Stand. 2002, Spider-Man saw Marvel's biggest hero in his best movie up to that point, only for the bloated disaster of Spider-Man 3 to send Tobey Maguire packing for good. Along the way, we got the Blade films, Hellboy movies, some attempts at the Fantastic Four, Daredevil, The Punisher, Elektra, Catwoman. There were some pretty good films in there, but nothing really stuck. Outside of the X-Men films, which Hugh Jackman was somehow able to put on his back and carry through to mediocrity, superhero movie franchises always seem to just run out of gas. Which for many of us who grew up with comic books and superheroes was a little head-scratching. With such a vast wealth of complex characters and interesting and often intersecting storylines, it seemed like the movies could just write themselves. But if we've learned anything from all those beach movies of the 1960s, the teen sex comedies of the 80s, the vampire craze of the 2000s, and our seemingly never-ending parade of zombie-themed entertainment options, it's that if Hollywood sees a profitable trend, they're going into full-on factory mode. So when Christopher Nolan delivered the 3 best Batman movies of all time, the best version of the Joker we'd ever seen, with apologies to Mark Hamill, some Academy Awards, and a boatload of money for everyone involved, the resulting superhero frenzy should have come as no surprise. But still, wow, after 2005's Batman Begins, there were over 60 superhero movies produced in the US alone. Before 2005, there were fewer than 100 ever. Now, admittingly, that's some fuzzy math, but a shift one way or another for accuracy doesn't diminish the point. Superheroes are Hollywood's current cash cows. Consider that 4 of the top 10 movies of all time are superhero movies, all released in this decade, and after Endgame, that number is going to be 5 out of 10. Which many might argue proves that people really aren't tired of superhero movies. If they were, these films wouldn't be obliterating box office records like they are, right? Maybe, but despite feeling the superhero fatigue, I'm still forking over my money. I've still sat through DC's hit and misses, the X-Men reboots, the Deadpool movies, all 21 Avengers-related films, and more. That's a lot of popcorn and holding in my pee, and for the most part, yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I'm just kind of over it. Some of you might say that's my fault. No one forced me to watch all those movies. That's a fair point, and I can't argue with that, but if I go back to when this wave of superhero movies first started hitting theaters, I was excited, and I was all too happy to see as many as I could. But by the time I was, 13 or 14 movies in, my excitement started to wane. But what, I'm just gonna stop after investing all that time into the storyline? It would be like reading a lengthy novel and 2/3 of the way through, start skipping chapters or deciding not to read the ending. No, you wanna see how things are gonna wrap up. Which is why I suspect that these movies are still doing great at the box office, and why Endgame will break all kinds of records. No one wants to hop off this roller coaster until the train comes to a complete stop. But what happens after Endgame? That's the real question. Will the next wave of superheroes capture the world's imaginations in the same way? Are we just as excited to see Captain Marvel lead a different mix of dysfunctional superheroes against yet another threat to the world's population? Will DC finally make us care about members of the Justice League? Are movies like Shazam with its equal parts comedy and action what people want now? Or are we just ready for something else altogether? I know I am. All that said, I can't wait for Endgame. I'm super excited, but for me, it's going to be a logical stopping point, or at least resting point. I mean, it's not like I'm going to quit superhero movies cold turkey, but I certainly won't feel as obligated because I won't get as invested. Well, that's all I've got, but I'd love to hear what you think. You can take the poll, leave a comment, or if you want to do me a real solid, subscribe.